Hello, Huge Movie Fanatic Nate, coming at you, continuing my review of the Amityville movies. I'm coming at you today to review Amityville 4, The Evil Escapes. So basically, this is the first Amityville sequel, that basically doesn't take place at the classic house. Now I'm going to start this review by saying something I said in my review of the first movie, the Amityville Horror, is that for me, one of the big huge things about what's really cool about the Amityville movies, or at least the first three, is the house. I've already mentioned that in my review of Amityville Horror. The house has always just been such a cool character, and getting into the Amityville movies at 14, it was just like really, to be honest, it was probably, and still is, I know it was probably that way when I was 14, but still in a lot of ways the house is the single most important thing about the first three Amityville movies. That is kind of the thing that if you're doing an Amityville movie you have to have, in my opinion. It's kind of like, Jason Goes to Hell, where it's not even Jason killing people, it's a coroner, and then it's a middle-aged cop or sheriff, and then it's a TV reporter. I mean, doing an Amityville movie, unfortunately the rest of them are pretty, well, I can't say the rest of them because I haven't seen all of them, but the ones that I own, the sequels, that take place after 3 are all basically, they don't take place at the classic Amityville house, and this is the Amityville 4, The Evil Escapes, is the first Amityville sequel to do that. I think this one, I don't know if this was, this was definitely a direct-to-video thing. It wasn't a movie that was made for the theater. It definitely has that kind of made for TV or made for direct-to-video vibe to it, particularly in the music. It should be said that the guy who wrote the screenplay for the original movie, Amityville Horror, actually wrote the screenplay and directed this one, which you'd think would make it be maybe better than it is. Well, maybe it'd be worse than it is without that guy's collaboration, but basically Sandor Stern, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, is the guy who did the screenplay for the original movie, returns to write and direct this movie. So that the premise of this movie, I will say that the movie begins with this really cool shot of the original house, which is in a rainstorm, and it's basically a shot of the the one famous side with the the windows and lit like evil eyes and stuff like that. Oh, I also have this DVD here that I got previously viewed for $3. This is probably really rare now, and probably probably goes for a lot more than $3, but I since have gotten this after I got the VHS. This VHS is the original tape from the late 80s or early 90s, whenever it came out. I think this movie was made in 89 or 90 or something like that, and this is the Vidmark Entertainment VHS tape. And when I rewatched it, I obviously watched this. The DVD, it should be said, it's really pretty good picture quality. For a DVD like this. No Name Sterling Entertainment put this particular DVD out. It's really kind of a pretty good presentation, but what I was saying is, the opening credits are kind of one of the only cool things about the movie, because it actually is, shooting the, shot of the classic house with the, the evil eye windows and stuff in a rainstorm, and the credits just go over a static shot of that. So basically the premise of this movie, it's unfortunate that, it's like I say, it's like making a Jason movie without Jason. They're starting the trend of, making Amityville movies without the classic house. So basically the premise of this movie is the movie starts with, in a cooler scene than I remember, because they actually film in what looks like, a set or whatever the hell, whether maybe it's the real house, I don't know, but as I stated in my reviews of Amityville 2 and 3D, the interiors for those two movies, and possibly the first one, I don't know, were shot in sound stages in Mexico, so I don't know if I can't imagine this movie would have had the budget to do that, but the movie does begin with interiors of the classic house, basically a whole gaggle or plethora of priests, on this rainy night or whatever the hell it is, windy, rainy night, arrive at the house to basically, bless / exorcise the house, whatever the hell they do when they go in, and it's just this army of priests go in with all their holy water shakers and their crosses and shit, going from room to room. It's almost like each priest has their own part of the house, their own room to go and do their priest bullshit and stuff. And this one guy who's kind of the young priest, kind of a main character in this movie, goes into this one room where this lamp is. This movie features this stupid lamp that kind of is in the shape of, it's got like a head and 2 arms. It's like a goofy, just abstract goofy tree lamp kind of thing with, you know, a bulb on the, you know, the main bulb is a kind of on the head, and then, you know, the arms would and the fingers would be a couple other little lights. So basically what ends up happening at the beginning of this movie, and I kind of think the beginning is kind of one of the cooler scenes in particular because it basically takes place at the classic house. So they're going in room by room exercising this or that or blessing the house or whatever. So what basically happens is this young priest or whatever is relegated to this one spot where this lamp is. Basically what we're led to believe by what's going on and the imagery we see is, you know, through this young priest doing this and that and all this crap, you know, they basically sends the evil in a really contrived kind of an idea. I mean, I guess it kind of works, kind of doesn't, whatever. Sends the evil, and it's funny how the evil has to travel, you know, out of the outlet through the cord into the lamp. So basically, if I'm understanding this correctly, the evil, this guy, or through the help of all these army of militia of priests, sends the evil in the house into this one just basically lamp, and basically, you know, just shows this scary stupid face in the main top bulb of the lamp thing or whatever, and sends this young priest slamming into the frickin' wall, kind of like Exorcist 3 stuff. Of course, Exorcist 3 probably wasn't even made yet at the time, but you know, those shots of, you know, people being, you know, kind of repelled against the wall and all that kind of stuff in Exorcist 3. That's the beginning of this movie, which basically gives this movie the, you know, the license or the vehicle from this point on to basically take the premise for this fourth movie, the third sequel of an Amityville movie, in basically out of the classic house. And the reason they probably do that is just budgetary reasons, you know. I mean, you know, whoever owns the real house for the exteriors, and maybe, who knows, maybe the interiors of the part 4 were actually filmed in the real house, I don't know. But whoever owned the real house that, you know, they filmed the exteriors on or whatever, are probably just, you know, I don't know all the particulars, but I would imagine they're just sick of these movies filming around their environment or whatever, so they just, in lower budget movie fashion, the Amityville sequels, or at least the ones I'm seeing and I'm going to be reviewing, are just basically taking license, and in this case taking the evil, you know, hence the title, The Evil Escapes, out of the classic house. And the premise is then there's like a yard sale days later and all this stuff gets sold, and this one older woman buys the lamp for her sister as a birthday present slash just a joke, because it is kind of, you know, just an ugly, dumb, stupid looking lamp. So this older woman, you know, and basically cuts her finger on the lamp and is like, oh, that's sharp, and then sends off the lamp to her sister all the way across the country in California. Meanwhile, we kind of see this woman's finger. She cut, you know, her finger on this demon lamp. Now we'll call this lamp the Demon Lamp. Should have been Amityville 4 Demon Lamp. That would have been a funny title. Her fingers get getting all infected and stuff, and slowly throughout the movie she kind of gets worse and worse, and then she ends up dying, I think, like, you know, just not on camera or anything, but, or maybe on camera. But that's just a side note. And then at some point this frickin' young priest, you know, wakes up and is like, he's trying to track down where'd the lamp go? Because I saw the evil go into the lamp. And I think it was a very similar thing to the first movie, where you've got this priest who's got this experience, this stuff, and the other priests or whatever are like, nah, you know, you're wrong. And then he kind of goes on this search himself to, you know, track down where the lamp went. Well, basically the lamp got sent all the way across the country to California. This older woman's sister, who's this, I don't know, I remember seeing this older woman who kind of looks like, you know, Jason Voorhees' mom, Betsy Palmer. She would have been a good Mrs. Voorhees in the late 80s. I remember seeing her, she's probably Patty Duke. I remember seeing her like maybe on TV shows or something like that in the 80s. She's a familiar face to me. So she's basically the main star of this movie, and she's the woman who, you know, her sister sent her the lamp, and she just lives at home. She's probably a widower, and she lives on this kind of nice house in California, and all by herself with a housekeeper and stuff. And basically her daughter and her two children, well, you know, her daughter, this woman here, is probably Jane Wyatt, I would imagine, who's also been widowed, and, you know, probably in her early 40s. You know, was basically just a stay-at-home mom, and just never really pursued a career because, she just, basically husband supporter. So with the husband's death, and she, finds herself unable to support her and her kids anymore, which is a kind of a realistic situation. So basically she and her two kids, teenage children, well, supposed to be teenage children, move into, this house with this main character, Patty Duke, while she can spend a year there while she goes back to school and tries to get back on her feet. That's the premise of this movie. And it should be said that the kids, the children of this woman, one of these, the boy is like this goofy kid who would end up going, this is probably pre-Puppet Master 3, this kid would end up going on to be, I think the only ever thing I've seen him in is Puppet Master 3. And it should be said, before I forget, not that I ever could, this movie also features one of, an early appearance, one of the earlier appearances of, well, she'd end up going by the name Zoe Trilling, who would of course eventually end up appearing briefly in Dr. Giggles and as a really kind of a main part in character in Night of the Demons 2. I've already reviewed those two movies, but this chick was just, oh my stars. If I can briefly segue and become a male chauvinist pig bastard for a few moments, this girl, and in particular in this movie, oh my gosh, some women, are women with breasts. I mean, this girl in this movie is like a pair of breasts that's got a woman connected to them. It's just like, oh gosh. Unfortunately, she doesn't really, I don't think, ever wear anything like cleavage revealing or anything like that, but in some of her tops and stuff, I mean, there's just so much breastage going on with this girl that, I mean, it's just, like I say, when I rewatched the movie, I mean, obviously when I was 14, I think I saw this probably in the, the summer of '91 when I was getting into Amityville movies. I was just like, oh, when I was 14, I was just like, oh my God, and even same thing goes now. It's just like, oh my gosh. But just take my word for it or see the movie yourself or whatever. I mean, this girl in this movie, even if she's completely, like, her top is completely covered, it's just like, oh my God. I should probably move on to other aspects of this movie. But it should be said that, she goes by a different name in this movie. I can't remember what name, but it's the girl who would, go on to be called Zoe Trilling. And, I'd say one of her biggest movies is probably Night of the Demons 2, where she does this dance number and kind of goes topless but keeps her breasts kind of exposed or covered up by her hands and stuff. But anyway, moving on. So basically what ends up happening with this movie is they plug in the lamp and, oh God, the lamp basically, flows out of the cord into the new house. It's just very contrived. I mean, it's pretty much the only way you can really make a sequel work if you're not going to have it take place in the original movie. So that's the premise. They plug in the lamp, evil gets, the Amityville evil gets, comes out of the cord and goes into this new house. And, it's funny because at the same time the lamp arrives, the family, her daughter and her two children arrive. So, and all shit they kind of rock this older woman's world, and she's just kind of has a nice peaceful existence with her and her housekeeper and stuff. And it seems like as soon as her kids show up, or her daughter and her grandchildren, all hell kind of breaks loose and all kinds of shit goes bad. So it's kind of funny. So, I mean, this woman kind of doesn't know what to, obviously not believing that this possessed lamp is the cause. She kind of thinks that everything's going shitty as soon as her family comes to stay with her. It's kind of funny. Having reviewed my notes here, I am incorrect. She's actually, the daughter of this older woman in this movie has actually got 3 children, and the third, which I forgot about and hadn't mentioned yet, is a younger daughter who, probably all the children are probably taking the dad's death hard, but this younger one seems kind of repressed and doesn't really talk much. But basically, what ends up happening in this movie is the lamp will kind of, we don't ever really see the lamp necessarily talking or communicating with her, but basically she's found up in the attic or wherever, just kind of standing in front of the lamp in a trance. So basically this girl gets kind of more or less in a way possessed by the lamp as the movie goes on, and she's revealing to her mom that, don't, I hear Daddy talking through the lamp or whatever. And so the evils, either before or after the evil went from the lamp into the house, the lamp still during the movie is still kind of maybe the main source of evil or whatever. And the lamp's got the youngest daughter believing that the lamp is dad, maybe afterlife or whatever. Talk the youngest daughter into the fact that dad, it's dad, and maybe that makes her listen to the evil lamp by pretending to be someone that she holds dear. But that's an aspect I forgot about. Luckily, I took notes. Wrote them down, and I'm able to remember that, or not remember, but be reminded of these plot points that way. That's kind of a gimmick that goes throughout the movie, and it's kind of, one of the many things that happens during the course of this movie. To be honest, seeing this kid deteriorate, and it's kind of tiresome after a while. I mean, as someone who's a little more sensitive maybe than average people, it's kind of hard to watch this, even though it is just a dumb horror movie made for cable or home video or whatever. It's kind of hard to see a character that's already in pain because of recently lost a dad, now going through, being manipulated by an evil lamp. I mean, what a bummer. So throughout the course of this movie, sometime, I don't know, mid-movie or whatever, a young priest wakes up from, presumably a short coma, having been, attacked and thrown against the wall in the actual Amityville house by when this, evil enters the lamp. This guy's on a crusade to figure out where this, having witnessed the evil actually go into the lamp, he's on this crusade to, as I've already mentioned, try to track down where this lamp is. By the end of the movie, he comes, saves the day and comes to the house and intervenes as well. So that's another plot point about. I mean, this movie's kind of, it's kind of chock full of all kinds of details, but I mean, they're really kind of boring, really. So it doesn't really matter if they're chock full of details or not. If they're boring details, who gives a crap? One of the first event scenes involves this goofy kid who will end up going on to be a little teenage kid in Puppet Master 3 who's down in the basement, and it's funny, he finds this chainsaw, gas-powered chainsaw, and it's not running, it's just sitting there, and he picks it up and he's like, pretending like, I mean, this kid's like, I don't know how old he's supposed to be, 14 or 15. He's acting like a, 8-year-old holding this thing going, me. And then, of course, as, predictably happens, the chainsaw just instantly just starts without him pulling it or doing anything. Instantly starts and kind of becomes possessed, and he's in the basement. And the first kind of real big event scene after the beginning of the movie is this little incident where this chainsaw is just going crazy. The older woman, who I presume to be his Patty Duke, comes down the stairs. Everyone comes down the stairs to all this ruckus and what's going on, and they come down to see him just tearing apart the, just chainsawing up the basement and stuff like that. And it's just, the kid's just, has this, scared, he's not doing it, it's a possessed chainsaw, but it looks like to everyone else when they come downstairs, he's just going berserk and chainsawing up the basement until this relatively tall, older housekeeper woman grabs the steel, she saves the day, she grabs a steel, rod or pipe bar, whatever the hell it is, and intervenes. And this old woman kind of, the Patty Duke character comes down the stairs fumbling and tripping, and it looks like this kid's about to saw Patty Duke to death when this woman with this, frickin' steel rod intervenes and gets in the way, and the chainsaw blade lands in the middle of that. She kind of holds it out in front of her, and that stops that, and it's just like, oh my god. So this is why the older woman, the Patty Duke character, thinks that, that her life's going to shit after her daughter and grandchildren arrive, because she thinks, obviously, that it's just this kid going nuts with a chainsaw, not that it's some kind of possessed chainsaw thing. That scene is kind of funny. It's just like, oh boy. Then the first scene that's any kind of, quote-unquote gore happens when there's this, this one girl, the Zoe Trilling character, is like just dumping stuff down the garbage disposal, and of course it gets stuck, and there's this, the son of this handyman shows up, and all like Zoe Trilling's like all, ooh, this kid's got like a Letterman jacket. I think he's supposed to be a high school student, and he's, it's just like, ooh, there's some interest or whatever, and she's like, the garbage disposal's, getting jammed or whatever, and she turns the switch off, and she's like reaching her hand down there, and then this kid wearing the whatever Letterman jacket's kind of like, the son of the handyman. He's kind of a handyman himself, apparently, comes over. It's just like, you shouldn't, put your hand down the freaking garbage disposal without securing the switch first. And he puts this masking tape over the switch to make sure it won't just vibrate down, which wouldn't really happen anyway. But So then there's this suspense scene where he's putting his hand down there. He's like, yeah, there's definitely something down here. And then you can see the switch, even with the freaking masking tape, goes in just into the on position. It's like, grinding up his hand, and there's blood coming out of it and splurts on Zoe Trilling's face. And it's just like, so that's kind of the first gore scene. It's not a huge thing, but that's kind of funny to watch as well. That's kind of fun. Later on in the movie, I don't know, I don't even know why they frickin' send for a plumber. I imagine, I can't remember. I imagine maybe the house is, you know, is spewing black goo crap out of all the sinks and, you know, shit. Maybe that happens again. I didn't write down every single plot point and everything that happens, but at some point a plumber is called, and he goes way down in the basement and tries to find this one spot, and it's just like he goes, it looks like he just burrows all the way to China before he finds the spot he was looking for. He undoes this, or starts to undo this thing, and then the thing starts, this pipe, and pipe starts going brr, 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 and it's just like, I think it comes down on him or something, and then the end of the pipe explodes, you know, spewing out all this just nasty looking, just oil looking, just gunk on his face. And then the high school kid's hand, presumably, I mean, I'm sure this is supposed to be his hand, kind of comes out of the pipe and lands on the guy's face as all this oil, black kind of viscous gunk, just basically this plumber is just drowned in all this goop that comes out of this pipe when the pipe kind of just bursts open. And the high school kid's hand comes out as well and kind of smacks him on the face before he's drowned by this viscous dark oil fluid. And then what's kind of cool is then you'd think, well, his van's still there. Well, basically then the van just gets kind of poltergeisted and drives away. So the characters are thinking that the plumber just left. So then for the rest of the movie, and presumably for the rest of the house's existence, that plumber's corpse is just kind of in the basement, just gonna slowly deteriorate or whatever. I mean, it's not funny, but it makes me laugh. Then I think basically the last kill in this movie, well, the cutting up of the high school kid's hand wasn't a kill. The first kill was the kill of the plumber, I think, and then the second and the last kill in this movie is the, well, I guess that woman died with the finger infection, but that's not exactly a fun on-screen kind of kill. The last kill, I think, that I jotted down here is this one where the housekeeper, the kind of the taller, older housekeeper woman ends up towards the end of the movie getting strangled by the cord of the demon lamp, which is kind of funny. And oh my gosh. So I think at the end of the movie, the young priest, of course, arrives to intervene and saves the day, and he's holding out the cross, doing all this stuff, confronting the demon lamp at kind of the attic of this house at the end of the movie. And I can't remember, I guess the evil probably goes from the house back into the lamp or some crap again. And what's funny is the older woman, kind of the Patty Duke character, is kind of the hero for some whatever freaking reason. She grabs the lamp and just runs to the window and throws it out the window. And the house is supposed to be located on the very kind of edge of this cliff that goes down to the ocean. So this lamp has this fall drop onto the beach way down the cliff and goes kaboom and just kind of blows up and stuff. And happily ever and how do you say that? Happily ever after, is that how you say it? Until we see everything's great with the family and stuff and things are getting better, until we pan down to the beach and see they have this family has a cat, so then we see their cat down there. I don't know how that would even get down there, but whatever, it's a dumb movie. The cat's fiddling around the remains of the demon lamp, looking around, and then there's this shot where the cat's just like and then it's like the cat faces camera, and I think it's a freeze frame, and then they put scary red eyes. They light up the cat's eyes like the evil went into the cat. I don't think they followed, they I don't know, I can't remember what happens on the next movie, the Amityville Curse, but that's such a completely stupid, just made-for-TV horror movie kind of an ending. But that's Amityville 4: The Evil Escapes. I think this review went on way too longer than I intended, but 5 or 6, 7 minutes of it was just me being obsessed about Zoe, a younger version of Zoe Trilling in this movie. So I'm going to only be able to give Amityville 4: The Evil Escapes a half of a star out of 4 stars. It definitely, is really, I found myself, halfway into the movie, probably to the end of it, just being like, this is really hard to get through. And as a 14-year-old, I don't think I was as hard on it. And I definitely, you know, Zoe Trilling definitely makes a movie easier to watch when she's on camera. But I mean, I was, even at 14, I knew that this was, you know, just a sequel, just to get the name, just to, you know, capitalize on the name Amityville. And I knew that this was nothing like the, you know, the first 3 movies or whatever. I can't remember. I think I would have saw the 3rd movie when I was 14 as well. I can't remember. I probably did. But obviously, you know, this is nothing like, I think I kind of mentioned it in my Amityville 3D review that, I mean, those are the first 3 movies are kind of the only thing really worth seeing in my opinion, and everything else that I've seen anyway is more or less just crap. So thank you very much for watching my review, which is probably way too long. Apologies for that. And if you're still watching, thank you very much for doing so. Thank you for watching this review, my review of Amityville 4, The Evil Escapes. My next video to be uploaded will probably be Amityville, The Amityville Curse. I got to rewatch that. I've got the VHS of it. That's all I have of that. So I'll rewatch that, and that'll be the next review coming up. I don't know, whenever I get around to it. Thank you very much for watching. We'll catch you next time.